You're listening to the Sustainable Innovation Podcast from NEASC. This 5-part series is for and by educational leaders who are interested in sustaining innovation this year and beyond. On this episode, you get to hear from Seokhyun Baek, otherwise known as Nathan, who happened to be our student keynote speaker at the December NEASC event. His keynote talk, entitled "Leaving This Place Better Than We Found It," had an important critical message for school leaders. In this conversation, we hear more about what our student speaker wanted to do with that platform, as well as Nathan's advice on what school leaders can do to amplify and really lean in to the significance of student leadership. Nathan happens to be a youth activist as well as a student who attends the Avenues online school. We'll also talk about that experience, what it means to be a student attending an online school. Before we dig into our conversation, I also want to thank our series sponsor, Small Wins. Please make sure that you tune in all the way to the end to learn about a special offer from them. We also have a little bit of business to share from NEASC. For public schools in the New England area, the Public Schools Showcase is coming up in Westford, Massachusetts this April. They will be focused on the power of belonging. You can learn more at www.neasc.org/showcase or by heading over to the show notes. For private and international schools around the world, the joint ECIS and NEASC Leadership Conference will be held April 25th to the 27th in Windsor, UK. You'll be able to learn more about that by heading over to ecis.org. Again, that link will be in the show notes. And finally, NEASC hopes to see all of the school leaders again next year at the Leadership Conference as it returns to Boston, November 20th to the 22nd of 2024. Watch the social media from NEASC for more details. Now with that, welcome Nathan to the show. Nathan, you were one of the remarkable keynote speakers at last December's NEASC leadership event. And I'd love to start there because you had a room full of school leaders from around the world whose attention was just focused on you. So you really had a great moment to get whatever message across that you felt really important to get across. Going into that keynote, what felt really important for you? What did you want to do with that platform of being one of the 3 keynote speakers?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Trisha. I think it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, first of all, and it really comes from a long, short story. For me, it started off from October, where my school, Avenues Online, had an accreditation meeting with NEASC. And after that, I was invited to speak at the conference. And I believe that having that platform felt like a dream come true for my mission, which is amplifying youth voices and also students. And by having this platform, I believe that it was kind of my duty to do my best to convey my thoughts and concerns and innovations of young people, including students, because I was essentially representing the students at NEASC accredited schools. And although speaking in front of more than 370, I think 5, and leading international educators was definitely nerve-wracking, I believe that every message I delivered was meaningful and change-making to a point. And coming back to your question, I wanted to leave this place better than we found it. And that's basically the leading phrase and the title of my keynote. But what I mean by this place is the educational landscape. And I also picked this phrase up from my school teachers. For example, they always taught me and my classmates to tuck in the chairs, wipe the whiteboard, and leave this room better than you found it. And I believe that it's everyone's responsibility to make the world a better place, although it sounds a bit cliche, because we share this place that we call Earth all together.
Well, I definitely felt like you left the conference a better place. And it's almost refreshing to hear you say that you found it a little nerve-wracking because you were so confident. It was obvious that you had spent a lot of time practicing, really thinking deeply about what you wanted to say. And, when you talk about innovation, as you mentioned, you're at the Avenues, the online school, which I think in years from now, that won't be such a novel idea, but we are in the educational landscape space where that is, a really unique experience. And so I was really glad to just, touch base with you informally and have a chat with you. And you kind of shared with me, I don't know if you remember, but, or you humored me. I was so curious to hear your take on what it means to manage your time and energy as an online student, because I know a lot of adults who work from home where they're talking about how difficult they have found that transition. And I'm wondering, for listeners who are just finding out that you're at the Avenues online school, if you just want to briefly talk about how that as an experience also maybe shapes the way that you think about innovation, because you do have a very unique student experience, I would say.
Absolutely. And just for context, for all the listeners, I go to a school called Avenues Online. It's one of the 5 campuses at the Avenues School. We have campus in New York, Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, Sao Paulo, and online. I go to the online campus. And I moved to Avenues Online on my last year of high school. So it's my first and last year at Avenues. It's pretty short, but I think it was definitely a meaningful decision. It took me about more than half a year to decide on whether I wanted to move. But I decided to go to Avenues Online because I'm a person who values punctuality, time management, and just time in general. And as a person who travels around the world to attend a lot of these meetings and conferences, for example, it's a fun fact, but I've been on the plane 14 times for the past year. So I wanted that flexibility that my school currently provides through a self-paced curriculum to balance what I do outside of school and inside of school. And another main reason why I joined Avenues Online is because they have a culture of innovation weaved into their curriculum and their entire school, because the school was founded on the idea of innovating education. So I think that's one of the reasons why I joined Avenues Online.
Well, again, it's such a privilege to be able to talk to you about innovation. As you say, you opted in to experience an innovative ecosystem as a learner. And of course, the theme of NEASC's event was sustainable innovation. It's been my experience that good school leaders understand they're only going to sustain any innovation when they're listening deeply to their students and they're doing more to value the perspective of student learners. What advice would you have for a leader who's listening and they are thinking, I know that's important. I know that I need to really understand what the student experience is. Do you have advice for school leaders who really do want to make sure they're not just hearing you, they're understanding, and they're really valuing what your experience as a student is?
Absolutely. So I'd say that listening and taking action are the 2 simple yet complex steps that you can take to make innovation possible for the student experience and also for the entire school community. And coming back to my keynote, although the main message of my keynote was that educators should listen to students to enhance the quality of education, I believe that students also should take an active role in being able to speak up and making use of these opportunities, because we both are stakeholders and we share our united responsibility to make education better. And plus, it's about having a mutual learning environment where students can learn from teachers and teachers can also learn from students. So in the end, there's no end to learning as long as we are open-minded and we collaborate together.
You know, what you said about the listening and taking action takes me back to the start of this podcast series where we heard from a principal who's won all of these awards, and she said something similar about, asking for feedback, but not asking for feedback just to ask for feedback, to make sure that you're explaining, this feedback that you provided, here's what I did with it. And making sure, as you say, like, we're listening and then we're acting. I'm wondering if in, your online learning experience, what does it mean because, sometimes I know school leaders will be able to have those very informal check-ins with students, like literally you might run into someone in a hallway, but, your past year, you're not necessarily running into your teachers in the hallway. What is a way that folks in a virtual space can still make sure that they are doing those check-ins? Is there something that your school is doing where it is making sure that it's gathering your feedback from time to time in not always a very formal way, but sometimes in an informal way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Avenues Online has a perfect answer to this question. It's called the Dean system. It's a bit apart from the academics and all that. It's definitely informal. We basically every student has deans basically. For me, it's Mr. Holland, and we basically check up with each other at least once a week just to talk to each other on how life is going apart from schoolwork. And I believe that that opportunity really helps us engage with teachers at Avenues Online apart from a studying, working atmosphere. So that definitely helps me get engaged and socialize with more people. And I actually came back from Italy from an Avenues program, actually. And I believe that in person, how do I say it, entrepreneurship program, it was on entrepreneurship, but it really helped me to engage with the entire school community. And just to give you more context, Avenues Online and Avenues as a whole has this opportunity called Global Journeys, where they choose a handful of students to go to different countries to engage in different programs. So for me, it was Italy. They also had one for Germany, Senegal, Hawaii, etc. And I was able to meet up with 39 more other students from all the 5 Avenues campuses and also meet up with a few teachers that I've seen online. So it definitely was a great experience for me to step out of my online learning atmosphere because Avenues Online has these opportunities provided, and that helps me socialize with people more. And even without the global journeys, we have these Dean systems and also things called O3s, which are called one-on-one meetings with teachers, and also lab sessions where you can engage with teachers and student classmates together. So I believe that offering those opportunities where you can constantly engage with your community really helps you to stay engaged despite being in an online venue.
And we'll be back to hear more reflection from Nathan in just a moment. But now that he has celebrated for us what has been a small win in his community, it's a perfect segue for us to tell you more about the special sponsor who's made this mini-series possible, that Small Wins Dashboard. We know how cumbersome it is to track progress while working towards your school goals. And when your team can't clearly see the progress it's making, momentum starts to wane. Small Wins Dashboard, created by educators with educators in mind, understands those challenges deeply. It's more than a tool for school growth, it's a catalyst for sustaining innovation and staff energy. The Small Wins Dashboard makes it easy for schools to gather, to visualize their progress as they go, and that platform is going to instantly convert faculty members' everyday experiences into shared visual progress. It's founded on the principle that teams accomplish more when they can see, celebrate, and learn from the everyday effects of their collective efforts. If you'd like to learn more, during spring 2024, Small Wins Dashboard is offering you a trial run with no long-term commitment at a discounted rate. You can visit smallwinsdashboard.com to book your free 30-minute demo today. You can learn more about Small Wins Dashboard by heading over to the show notes. Now, back to our show. Remember, every small win counts. So Nathan, I've got to ask, because it's great to hear you are, having all these opportunities. I feel like the way that you're framing it is very generous. You're kind of saying and being thankful to your school or thankful to NEASC for quote unquote giving you the opportunity. But, having had the joy of chatting with you a few times, you also very much strike me as the kind of person who maximizes an opportunity, or again, who is very intentional in terms of thinking about what you want to do with that moment. Am I wrong there, Nathan? Or is there some, what is it that you do, or how is it that you think about entering into an opportunity to ensure that it's not just a trip to Italy, or it wasn't just a keynote? Do you have kind of a process, or do you check in with a mentor? What is your secret, Nathan, to not just getting the opportunity, but really doing something with it?
I think you're definitely spot on with that. First of all, I am a person who's bad at saying no, but apart from that, whenever it comes to an opportunity, I believe that every single opportunity, whether it's good or bad, whether it's significant or not, I believe that it's meaningful to a certain degree, because I believe that it's my actions that help me to become a better person, not as a student and also as a person who wants to achieve something in this world. So for me, it's a complicated process whenever it comes to grabbing onto opportunities, but I think I always try to evaluate what I can do in the opportunity given and maximize it to how much I can make an impact. And I think this is a mission that I always have. Whenever it comes to different countries and communities, apart from taking action, I always want to leave a positive impact overall. So I think having that mindset of being open-minded and wanting to achieve something really drives me to maximize all those opportunities.
I feel like what I'm hearing you say is that you almost begin the opportunity with the end in mind and realizing, this can really be something. I want it to be something. There's that sort of desire and real effort to make sure that it's building on, what are real values that I just, every time I talk to you, I get such a strong sense of the values that you have. And I think that as one of the few students who was in attendance of the NEASC Leadership Conference, you have a really unique perspective into understanding, like, what are our values when it comes to school leadership? I'm kind of wondering what you think moving forward are some areas that leadership conferences should make sure that they're making time and space for. What else would you like to see us highlight when we get together as school leaders and we talk about what it means to be in school leadership?
I believe that I gained a lot of valuable insight into how education goes to work behind the scenes. It sounds a bit weird, but because students are often the recipients of education, we don't really know what goes behind the curtains. And for example, we don't really have access to how the curriculum is crafted, how teachers moderate with each other, exchange ideas, and etc. Therefore, I believe that attending this conference was helpful to me in understanding that each and every educator is motivated and prepared to take action as a whole. And it's just that there hasn't been a platform where students and teachers to collaborate together. So I would like to highlight the moments of collaboration between the teachers themselves and the exhibitors also. And yeah, I've seen different teachers from different countries exchanging contacts to implement and discuss insight to improve both of their school ecosystems. And I think it's now time to create a platform perhaps where teachers and students can also collaborate. I think we took that first step in where teachers collaborate with each other. I think now it's time for teachers and students to work together.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, I am really happy to see more and more conferences make sure that students are there, not just, you were a keynote presenter, but you were also like right there integrating in. I even kind of made sure that I got to sit next to you at one point and chat with you. And I'd like to ask you about that, Nathan, because I did have this moment of hesitation where I thought, oh gosh, he's one of the keynote speakers. Probably so many people have been taking his time, taking his energy, and I hesitated before I took that seat next to you. And I just thought maybe he just wants to be left alone. I'm quite an introvert. So I always kind of sometimes think maybe this person just wants a moment of quiet. Do you have any guidance or any thoughts in terms of other school leaders who are thinking, Nathan's right, I want students involved more in that kind of conference or even meetings, as you're saying, just getting students to be a part of some of that teacher collaboration. It doesn't have to be a full-scale conference. It could be a meeting. But what might be best practice for the adults? Like, what guidance would you have in terms of, here's how I would love to have the adult learners work to make sure that I feel included, or here's how I, would like for them to see me as someone to collaborate with. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, first of all, I understand that hesitation myself as well, because I'm kind of an introvert and an extrovert at the same time. But I think the most important thing for all educators is that I think students are ready to speak up. I think they're ready to take action. My friends, my classmates as well, they're pretty motivated. So I think what we all can do is to just give students a chance. It sounds pretty simple, but it's something really hard to achieve. And I think it's these opportunities, these platforms that students need to amplify their opinions and their voices. Because in the past and even now, in some places, students really can't speak up because they don't really have a platform to do so. And them alone, they don't really have the power and the voice to do that because they're still seen and perceived as the recipients of education. So we're mostly just told to listen all the time, and humans have a mouth for a reason. So I believe that it's really time for students to speak up and also have adults to give them opportunities. So I believe that the best policy would be to just approach students and ask, because we haven't been asked for a long time, and it's just that simple step that can lead to a entire spectrum of change. So that'll be my feedback.
That's a beautiful note to end on. And, you are a wonderful example of students aren't just ready, but they are magnificently equipped to make these crucial contributions. So thank you so much for taking the time. It was such a privilege to listen to you speak, and we're just so thrilled to get to hear from you again on this podcast. We'll be wishing you well. I know that you're making some big decisions about your future in the time to come, and so hopefully we can touch base and hear more about what it is that you would like to do with the many opportunities that I think are around the bend. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Nathan.
Thank you so much for having me, Trisha.